MarzGurl.
And I'm JoshKnightTheFirst.
Welcome to episode 43 of MokkoriPlay, the only podcast dedicated solely to all things City Hunter.
On today's podcast, we're going to cover episode 43 of City Hunter, titled Utako's Cookie Anniversary, Moles on Her Chest, and a Love Poem.
If you thought you were going to get out of this episode without seeing M&Ms, you were wrong.
Oh, you were dead wrong. There are M&Ms in this episode, and they're on a plate in front of you.
There's no blue ones, because blue M&Ms didn't exist yet.
Not till the 90s.
Yeah, remember when that was a big deal?
Well, yeah, that too, and then they snuck in, I think I was just a baby when they got the red ones in. Or not even then, because this would have been when I was a baby when this show was airing.
Now, it's okay.
And now we gotta look this up.
We didn't even make it like 2 minutes in.
We're not even a full minute in.
When did red M&Ms get introduced? 1987.
Oh, this year. It was this year.
The year of the broadcast of
the
this.
The year of City Hunter.
So, okay, so maybe in Japan.
So I was right, it was when I was a baby.
Or at this point in time, red M&Ms had not yet, in that part of the year when they were producing the episode, been introduced. Because I was like, there's no blue, obviously, but there's also no red. Why are there no red? Had they not been introduced yet? And I guess not, because I seem to remember almost the entirety of my life red M&Ms being a thing, and then blue was the big deal. But, you know, I was born in 1986, so my memories of M&Ms would not be strong enough.
See, I was born in 85, so that's why I say, like, I kind of remember that.
Yeah, if I'm 1 year old when they introduce red M&Ms, then to me, they've had red M&Ms basically my entire life. But blue is where you're like, oh my god, blue! Holy shit!
And then nothing good ever happened to M&Ms again until they introduced minis, and then after that when they introduced Crunchy. That's how it goes for me, because I don't really like the peanut butter M&Ms, but Crunchy is my addiction.
But what about the birthday cake or whatever?
I'm not a fan.
Really?
When Crunchy M&Ms came out, I was a fiend. I had like a 3-bag-a-day habit. I'm not even joking.
What?
I
have never eaten that many M&Ms in my life in one sitting.
Well, it was over the course of a day, but yeah, I would go through like 3 bags. Mind you, they were cheap when they came out.
So we bought a tube of M&M minis just because, hey, we're doing our recording of City Hunter.
And we were talking about the tubes last week.
We've been talking about the tubes, and I can't believe we've talked about the tubes of M&Ms that long. But you know, I'm holding this tube in my hand, and I'm saying, man, I don't know if it's just because I'm not a 10-year-old anymore, or if it's that shrinkflation, but this tube seems small.
No, it was a smaller tube. Like, if you go to a dedicated candy store, you'll find a regular size tube.
Oh, okay. Really? They do still make them that big then?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we were just ripped off because we got a smaller size.
Then again, we were at the dollar store.
Okay, that's fair. It's, you know, even still to this day, because I talked about the last time, like, man, I just held on to those tubes because I wanted to hold on to them, and I didn't really know why. I still have not thrown the tube away
from earlier tonight.
That we just had earlier tonight, because I'm holding it in my hand and I'm like, I don't know if I can throw this away.
See,
what am I gonna do?
It's coming back again. Old habits die hard.
I know.
Like, there's some stuff ingrained in you since childhood. Some things like a birthmark. And that's me segueing into today's episode.
Yeah, we actually should probably talk about the show.
But you know what? I'm not going to do that. Because I will actually talk about... We were out at a convention this weekend, and we actually had some...
Totally unrelated to anime, actually. Power Morphicon, so Power Rangers, and kind of off to the side some other tokusatsu, live-action, Japanese-specific stuff.
But we actually had some really good City Hunter conversations this weekend.
We did, with a couple other people who really, really knew City Hunter. Sometimes they listen to this, so if you're listening, hi Victor,
hi guys,
hi Justin. And we were just at some random booth that just had random Japanese shit in it, and then somebody pulled out, hey, look what they got, and it was this Japanese published, like, you remember how Tokyo Pop used to publish those cinemanga, where they basically just took panels from an episode of an anime or a movie
like
or something.
Screenshots.
They just took screenshots, and then they put them into comic format.
And which one was that? It was
one of the OVAs.
I want to say it was $1 Million Conspiracy, but I could be wrong.
It might have been Million. It was definitely not Bay City Wars.
No, I know Bay City Wars.
But it was one of those OVAs, and I'm like, oh, well, nobody needs it. But here we are all at this event talking about City Hunter, and we just found this City Hunter manga out in the wild at an event that, all things things considered, should not have any City Hunter material at it
Right,
whatsoever.
none at all. But there it was. And then through those conversations, we found that it was next to unanimous. Dave Bautista would be the best choice for casting an American Umibozu.
Okay, that's fine. Whatever. I'll live with it.
It was majority rule.
Okay.
Now we will get to the episode.
Fine.
Okay, so this week what we're dealing with here is a bunch of very focused perverts. Mm-hmm. These are perverts for hire this week.
Yeah, somebody is seeking out perverts specifically. How did that ad go? Like, this ad campaign of like, are you a pervert? We need you in our industry now.
And the funny thing is, I don't imagine how you would have that flyer out in the streets of Tokyo without Ryo's face on it, like, Uncle Sam, we need you. Because
everybody knows he's the legendary pervert of the city.
Well, like, you know in the Yakuza series how, like, Majima's the mad dog of Shimano and Kiryu is the dragon of Dojima?
Yeah.
This guy's the legendary pervert of Shinjuku.
Sounds about right. Except he's not Yakuza, so maybe he doesn't get a fancy name like that because he's not Yakuza.
He's got a fancy name. It's City Hunter.
Right, so he doesn't need one of those other names.
Yeah, I know. If you could give him one,
I understand.
It would be the legendary pervert
I understand
of
the
Shinjuku.
thought process. He's just not Yakuza enough to have one of those names.
Right. So our episode this week starts out on the JR line.
They specifically utilized the icon of the Japan Rail. Like, that is a very specific train line across Japan, really. But there are two major train lines in Tokyo specifically. It's either the Tokyo Metro or the JR. And there you can see right on the front of this train, oh, JR, they didn't even try and mess with it. Because in a lot of other anime, it's not really well hidden that they're trying to draw in the JR, but they'll like turn it into like an FR or something.
Right, they're trying to hide it for, I guess, copyright's sake.
I guess. They were not worried about that in 1987, I guess.
Well, they're not worried about a lot of things being hidden in this show.
They really aren't. But I've heard that from animators too, like, oh, by the time you got to the early 90s, the industry changed and suddenly everybody's worried about copyright. And now you can't have creators like character swapping their characters to just cameo in one another's shows anymore. Like they're really upset about that transition.
And that's where fanfiction came in.
That's true.
So here on the JR line, we're introduced to our client for the week, whose name is Utako Yumeno. So we'll get more into what her name means once she actually meets with City Hunter.
Sure, but she's speaking very poetically to herself on this train.
You know, it's sunset, and so she's waxing poetic about what the sunlight looks like coming through the windows of the train.
As it's setting, and it disappears.
And as is unfortunately oft to happen on these trains during rush hour, there's a man making his way closer to Utako with the explicit purpose of trying to look down her shirt.
And there is a reason. You just don't think that there is a specific reason other than he just wants to see some titties.
Now, Utako does the right thing. She screams and kicks the guy in the nuts. And that's the end of that for that second. But the issue is, this is unfortunately still a problem there in Japan, is there's a lot of problems with perverts on trains.
I mean, yeah, I had to be in situations on a crowded train during rush hour, evening rush hour.
Specifically.
And I am unfortunately taller than a lot of people in Japan, so dudes would be crushed up against me, and maybe it wasn't entirely on purpose, but this guy, he would look approximately at my chest and then look away, and then look approximately at my chest and then look away, and then he did this several times, so that it got to the point where it was like, maybe I could be mistaken, but I don't know, you're kind of doing that a lot, my guy.
And the thing is, over there, they've had to institute things like having women-only cars on trains.
It's specifically only for certain hours, though. And
right,
it's during rush hour, specifically.
Right, exactly.
Morning rush hour and evening rush hour, where the very last car of the train is like, this is women's only, dudes aren't supposed to get on it, and if a dude does get on it, they're gonna look at you weird and be all terrified of you and stuff. But then during the rest of the day, it's open to everybody because it's not nearly as crowded. You don't have to worry about, oh, this guy's just gonna try and sneak in an ass grab or something. But it's just so unfortunate that this is even necessary. Like, dudes so can't control themselves, and the country so protects these dudes that they're just like, well, we'll just keep you guys segregated from each other, and then that'll solve the problem.
Like, you think about it, this was a plot point in this episode of City Hunter in 1987.
This has been going on a long time.
Just as recently as, last year in the video game Lost Judgment, it's a huge plot point.
Yes. So this is still happening.
And still shows up in
Japan.
media.
Yeah. There's a societal problem. I'm not gonna lie. And lots of people in Japan complain about how it's a societal problem, but then they don't do anything.
So unfortunately for Utako here, it's not just the train, it's also when she goes to the movies.
So yeah, she's watching some film. It looks like a French film.
Yeah, because they're there.
Je t'aime, je t'aime.
I love you, I love you. And then from behind her, there's some other pervert guy just kind of leering over like, oh, just trying to get a look. And then she yells pervert and then knocks him out and then runs out of the theater, as well she should. And apparently this has been happening to her enough times that she's had to go to Shinjuku Station and seek out the help of City Hunter.
So Kaori reads off the request from the board. She can tell it's from a woman because the handwriting is very feminine or whatever, which I guess is a thing in everybody's language. Women write very pretty.
And she doesn't want to take the case because she tries not to take female cases, even though explicitly Ryo only takes female cases.
Yeah, there's sort of a conflict there of,
But there's also the other conflict
want.
of they haven't had work in a while.
Yeah, which I guess seems to happen. Like, they'll get a big job, and then they will just be out of work for like a month.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
That's freelance for you, baby!
I mean, they are the definition of freelance. It's whatever jobs they can get.
Yeah.
And you can't really do ZipRecruiter for, like, sweeper work.
Certainly not in 1987, you can't. You can't go down to Hello Work for being a sweeper.
The job center service there in Japan.
Yeah, the government-funded job recruitment service.
Yeah, you can't get work for sweeping. You could be a janitor.
That's a different kind of sweeping entirely. It's an entirely different kind of sweeping.
Altogether. So over tea, Utako goes ahead and relays her story to Ryo and Kaori about how this has continually been happening to her. And as you would figure, Ryo tells her, so you got a problem with perverts staring at you, huh? Well, that's a good thing for you. Some women don't even have that problem where perverts won't even give them the time of day.
Right, Kaori? Then he gets her name in there. She just looks over at him like, this bitch.
Like, she's got a 1,000-yard stare on him.
She lets it go, but not without the glance.
Like, she's got such good facial reactions in this episode.
Yeah.
Like, I found myself pausing every other couple of minutes just to look at her looking at Ryo. Mm-hmm. Now, Ryo is making it worse because, admittedly, this stuff happening to her repeatedly, this is a traumatic experience she's experienced.
Yeah, of course.
So what's Ryo gonna do? Okay, so let's go ahead and profile you here. Did they touch you like this? Were they being perverted like this?
Yeah, let's reopen those wounds. Why don't we?
Let's relive the trauma. Mm-hmm. At which point, Cowdy gets him with the liar hammer.
Well, because he's trying to
play it off.
He's trying to play it off as though, oh no, we need to do this to understand why it is the perverts are doing what they're doing.
We're doing this to develop a psych profile.
So yeah, the hammer she hits him with says Usotsuki, which is liar. Yeah.
Like, you perv, you know exactly why you're doing this.
You're doing this just to do this. Just for yourself.
So after Ryo's been hit with the hammer, Utako asks Kaori point blank, look, can I ask you, is it my face? Is it something about the way I look? I do have a complex about things. I've never been loved before. I don't know what real love feels like. All my love is one-sided. I just want to feel what unconditional love feels like. At which point Ryo's like, oh, leave that to me. I'll be your lover.
And she's like, no, I don't like younger guys. To which I'm thinking, Ryo's not that young. What are you talking about? But then she specifies, no. I like myself a good old silver fox.
And they're there questioning to themselves, oh, she's into daddies? No, she's into granddaddies. And then Ryo's get this, like, puzzled cat look on his face.
Yeah, it's cute. It's like 5 frames of just this adorable, confused cat look. He's got the cat butt face going on with his mouth. I don't know. It's funny. It's weird. It's a weird decision for the animators to go with, but it was kind of cute. And she's just really fawning over old dudes. Like, oh, I just love how they smile or they talk or whatever. And it's just kind of, all right. What?
I mean, if that's what you're into.
I mean, at least you're legal, I guess. So, okay.
And so this whole time that they've been having tea, Cowdy's kind of been looking at Utako like, something about you looks really familiar. What is it? And then finally clicks for her, Oh my god, you're Utako, the Utako Yumeno. You wrote this amazing best-selling book of poems for the last 6 months. It's been on the top-selling list. Oh my god, you're that author.
What was it called? Tomato
Carnival.
Carnival.
What a weird title for a poem book.
It must mean something. It must be an allusion to something that really existed at the time, but I don't know what. I'll have to look up what 1987 Japanese best-selling novels were or something.
Best-selling compilations of poetry.
Sure. So that sort of leads us to, okay, let's put her name back into Japanese order.
Right. So if any of you have seen Sailor Moon, if you break down the names of all the Sailor Scouts, their names mean literally what their powers are and are related very much to their personality.
So Tsukino Usagi, mind you, I'm putting them family name first and given name last, so that's traditional Japanese order. Tsuki no
means
that's
of the moon.
Of the moon, and Usagi means rabbit. So rabbit of the moon. Great, we got that covered. Mizuno Ami is
water.
Ami of water, that sort of thing.
Kino Makoto of thunder or lightning.
Yeah.
Aino Minako, so Minako of love.
Yeah, so her name is like that.
So Yume is dream. And she's talking a lot about how she gets all of these ideas for her poetry out of dreams. And then her given name, Utako,
is like either song, girl, or Uta can also mean poetry, and she writes a shit ton of poetry, so they're just being very blatant and very obvious.
Very literal.
So, Poetry Girl of Dreams is what her name is.
Yes.
Good job.
Like, that would be
authors.
if I wrote a novel about a musician and I named him Singy McSongwriter. That's how literal they're being.
Dreamy McSongwriter.
Oh, yes, Dreamy McSongwriter, alright. So, seemingly unrelated, across town, we're taken back to a Yakuza compound.
Oh boy, it's Yakuza again?
And you guys wonder why we bring up the Yakuza game franchise so much because of this show. Well, guess what? They're both really focused on the Yakuza.
Well, we can especially correlate it with Yakuza 0 because it takes place in the 80s, which is why I keep saying, somebody please just pull Ryo's character model out of Jump Force and put it into the PC version of Yakuza 0 and he would fit right in.
So over at this Yakuza compound, we see a bunch of guys getting William Telled, tied to trees with apples on their heads and getting knives thrown at them like, we thought you were the top perverts.
I mean, this Yakuza guy's really good with his knives, if I'm to be honest.
He could have a lot worse aim.
Yeah.
There could be a lot more injuries.
He did not injure anyone. He hit the apples really square in the middle. So these dudes totally failed at their objective to see down this woman's shirt.
So these guys have been hired, to clarify here, by the Yakuza to look down one woman's shirt.
And yeah, of course she's gonna get suspicious because after a certain point, it's not like you can't be thinking, wow, what a weird coincidence that dudes just keep doing this. Well, then you have to, at some point, feel like, is this a conspiracy? Like, you
$1 million conspiracy?
You really have to start wondering.
Well, no, like, they're still talking about it in the scene here, Ryo and Cowdy, about, it's weird that this has been this many perverts going after this one specific spot on her body.
In a row?
In a row? Yeah, that's what I was...
Yeah.
Like, that's there in my notes. I had to fend off 35 guys.
In a row?
Yes. So, not only are these Yakuza punishing the perverts they've hired, then they have to take break time to go do poetry for their mid-boss, who's getting pissed off that all of them suck. And of course they suck at doing poetry, they're Yakuza.
Because they're trying to get close to her, right? So they figure, well, also because they know she's never been in love, they seem to have this information about her.
Yeah.
So they're trying to woo her to make it easier to perv on her.
And it's weird. You'll find by the time we get to the end of the episode, this is a very convoluted plan that the Yakuza have put into place.
Mind you, this entire time, I get angry at this sort of thing in high school rom-coms, okay? All could have been solved by just talking. This whole plot can be solved by asking somebody a question.
It's a thing my grandfather would always say. The thing you gotta remember, communication. And there's
well,
none
your
of it here.
grandfather was correct.
He was. And so after this little poetry circle doesn't go well, the patriarch, the ailing old patriarch of this Yakuza clan, rings for the mid-boss to come over to his bedside, and he's like, how much longer do we have to wait? And mid-boss is like, it's okay, boss, we're gonna get this figured out. We might even do it today.
Okay, well, you do that.
And we're like, okay, well, what's going on here? Clearly, there's something tied to Utako that they're trying to figure out. They don't really hide this very well.
Sure.
But then, when all seems lost for the Yakuza,
one fuckboy
comes out of nowhere, this guy calling himself Lady Killer Sabu.
Oh, he's awful. He's the worst. By the way, this is not going to be the only time we see this guy.
If I'm not mistaken, no.
He absolutely comes back again at some point in the future. After, look, I'm just going to tell you Ryo disposes of this guy later. But we're going to see him again sometime in the distant future, and then he's going to be like, oh shit, it's Ryo, and he was a dick to me, and he tries to run away. Again, he bitches out a second time. But anyway, when I say he bitches out, it's because he is a bitch. He dresses like a bitch, his hair is like a bitch.
His hair, whack. His poems, whack. His style, whack.
His magic tricks, which are a thing that are coming,
whack. Ryo, he's tight as fuck.
But he's convinced, like, oh, I've got a poem that's gonna blow this woman's socks off. Oh, okay, then by all means, please, you go at it.
And he's like, don't worry, I have been with many women, and yes, I can do this. And clearly this man is lying.
He's, at best, wooed one person as a pen pal or something.
Maybe even just prison correspondence. So now we take you to a new episode of a new show we're starting called Staking Out for Perverts at Night.
At night.
So we're here at the park. I assume it's there somewhere around Shinjuku. And what we're doing now is we're watching Ryo and Kaori as they're waiting in the bushes, watching over Utako, as we figure tonight someone else is going to probably try and hit on her.
Right. So they're just there to make sure she's fine, see who it is. Does he have an agenda?
And for what it's worth, Kaori's wearing a purple jumpsuit that's kind of like Gadget's, but more stylish.
It's cooler looking. It says Army on the back.
Oh, I didn't know she was into BTS.
Well, certainly not in 1987, she's not. That's older than many of the members are.
None of them were born yet, I don't think. But anyway, sure enough time goes by, and who shows up but friggin' Sabu over here?
Comes out with a whole bunch of roses, which, you know, it's at least a nicer approach than these other guys, but then he does this magic trick where he's like, and now I'm gonna cover the roses with this napkin, and then I pull them away and I destroyed all the roses, like as if that's a good magic trick, and she's even like, why'd you destroy them? They were better before you destroyed them. And he's like, don't worry about it. They pale in comparison to your beauty. And I'm just thinking, you know, as a woman, like, why would you destroy your gift to me just to prove that you thought I was more beautiful than the gift? It's kind of stupid. If you're gonna give me stuff, don't destroy the thing you're giving me.
Fair. And so he's like, okay, you didn't like the roses? I got something better. And he exposes himself like a pervert, but thank God he's still fully clothed. But his coat was full of doves.
He just opens his coat up as if he were going to flash her, but instead of the flashing, it's birds. It's just so many birds.
And I love that over in the bushes, Ryo's clapping like a 5-year-old.
Oh, impressive.
And Kaori's like, shut up.
Again, good facial expressions on Kaori.
She's just so angry at him. And then finally, he kind of like, not quite convinces her, but he kind of like strong arms her almost into being like, hey, come with me to get a drink.
And yeah, her being just this much smaller woman, she doesn't really feel like she can go against this. And this is supposed to be the moment where her bodyguards are supposed to be protecting her. So Kaori's like, okay, this is our chance. We gotta get out there and we gotta at least follow this guy. But Ryo's nowhere to be found. And he's just in some other bushes looking at something extremely intently. And we do not know what.
Yeah, like he's there in the bushes like, okay, yeah, just a little more. I guess it's for us to interpret what that means, like what it is he's actually looking at.
Like, does he see a butt? I don't understand.
Does he see a couple getting it on? I don't know. But Ryo gets hit with the 100-ton hammer because we figure he must have been doing something wrong. We just don't know what it was.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird decision on the animator's part. I don't understand.
Like, I feel like that's one of those things of like, they got to the end of the production week, like they were screening it for the director and they were thinking to themselves, hey, did we forget to leave in the scene of what he was looking at? Oh, too late now.
They didn't get that cut back from that particular animator who was animating that shot. That must be it, and they just left that shot out.
Could be. So now Sabu has taken Utako over to a local bar, and he's very, very much trying to pressure her into getting drunk.
Yeah, or just accepting a drink. And she's just looking at this glass like, man, I really do not want to do this. And, like, I also would not want to accept alcohol from a stranger either.
Especially a pushy stranger.
Yeah, this dude's been so pushy. And he's like, look, just take one drink and I'll leave you alone. And she's like, look, I really don't want to drink. And he's like, I haven't poisoned it or anything. Which is a logical reason to be concerned, but that's not even why she's worried about it. She knows if she drinks, she blacks out.
Right, she won't remember what happens next because she has a very low tolerance to alcohol.
But he decides, I don't even need to drug her. I'm just gonna get her really fucking drunk.
And so unfortunately, she finally relents and is like, all right, fine, one drink. And she knocks it back, and then she's immediately a mean drunk.
Yeah, just screaming at this dude, demanding a second drink. So when she has one drink, suddenly she wants to drink a lot.
She's like Thor, another!
Yeah, but Thor handles his liquor a lot better than she does.
She's a lightweight, and she's also a mean lightweight.
She had like one martini glass.
Yeah, and now she's yelling at him about how she wants to end all perverts, which,
That's fair. That's
admirable.
Fair. She throws him out a glass window. The window's not open. She broke the glass with his face.
And then he almost gets run over by Rio and Cowdy in the Fiat.
Yeah, why are they driving the Fiat? Why is Rio driving the Fiat? Like, Cowry's there. Pretty sure it's her car, we think.
Yeah, I think we've cemented that the Fiat is hers.
But I guess she just accepts, if he wants to drive, he can drive, whatever.
Like, it's little things like that make me feel like they act like a married couple.
Yeah, because you don't just, like, if you're just chilling with your friends and you say, hey, you want to go out for a Taco Bell run or something, and go, yeah, you get into your friend's car, you don't drive your friend's car.
Exactly. Like, that's not normal friend behavior.
Yeah. Your friend doesn't go, hey, do you want to drive today? You would never do that.
Never once in my life. Any of the times I was hanging out with my friends in high school or college, never once happened.
Literally the only time I let a friend drive my car was because while I was driving, I sneezed and I broke my rib sneezing. And then I said, holy shit! I can't drive! Kevin, drive me to the hospital! And my friend Kevin got in the driver's seat and drove me to the hospital.
Well, that'd be really weird if you said, Kevin, drive me to the hospital, and then your friend Steve did. That'd be weird.
Steve wasn't there. Steve absolutely did not visit me in the hospital. That motherfucker, Steve. I'm fine.
So Rio and Cowdy notice, hey, there's a body in the road. And so they go out to question, hey, wait a minute, Cowdy says, you're the hot guy. Sabu doesn't care that somebody recognizes him as hot. He's just trying to get the hell away from Utako.
Who is now out in the street because she climbed out the broken glass window.
And she's just acting a fool.
And she's just like, and now I'm gonna turn into a train. Watch out, the doors are closing, choo-choo. Is basically the way she's acting.
After that, she's like, all right, I'm done being a train. Now I'm Ultraman. And then she's like posing.
She tries to take off, except she falls over. And then to protect herself from falling over, she starts doing push-ups. And then when she's done doing push-ups, she runs away down the street.
So Cowdy gives chase. Rio holds down Sabu like, all right, dude, start talking. Why were you trying to get her alone?
Oh, because somebody told me to. That's why. God, who told you?
It's like, why were you doing this? I was looking for moles, man. I was looking for moles. Moles?
Like the underground kind? Or no, stupid! The kind that you grow on your body!
But we'll leave that for a second. So we catch up to Utako, who is now passed out in an alley and has somehow immediately sobered up.
She's sober. Once she wakes up, she's sober. That's incredible. Incredible how she just takes a few drops of alcohol and she's out.
It wasn't just a few drops. She took that thing to the head.
She took a drink.
A full drink.
So she took a drink and she is just gone. But then as soon as she wakes up, it's like nothing ever happened.
That's some other kind of metabolism.
Yeah. That's a really unstable metabolism, quite frankly.
Well, quite honestly, it's inhuman. It's freakish.
Yeah, because if you've got a fast metabolism, you should have never been drunk in the first place.
Right.
I'm so confused.
Her body doesn't make sense. this episode does kind of cement the fact Utako's body is ridiculous. So Kaori's like, all right, we got you sober. All right, that's great. Let's get you back to safety. Well, safety's not going to happen when there's a Volvo running up on you.
A Volvo full of yakuza.
Yakuza. These Yakuza.
So the Yakuza came up and they were like, hey, get in the car. And she's like, no, I'm not going to get in the car. And they're like, you're going to get in the car. And then they left Kaori in the street. And she's like, hey, get back here.
And Kaori's like, Ryo, she's in the car. What are we doing?
I don't know.
So yeah, these guys are trying to make a getaway with Utako in the back seat, and Ryo, he's not running. He's not worried. He's just walking towards them as the car's coming at him like a stone cold badass.
Very Terminator-like. I'm just gonna walk while this car approaches me.
And like, he doesn't even flinch. He goes straight for the Magnum, shoots out both headlights.
And 2 tires.
Both front tires.
Car comes screeching to a halt. It thankfully does not roll over. It almost looks like it might, but then it doesn't. It just stops dead in its tracks.
And then he just rolls up to the guy in the front like, take me to your leader.
Which is good, because that's where they were going anyway.
Yeah, like, okay, now we're all getting in the car now.
Wait, whose car?
Actually, that's a good point. That car's not drivable anymore. So they've got 2 options.
The Fiat, or they took mass transit.
Or they walked.
Yeah, hopefully they're just within walking distance.
But I think that would be really funny if everybody was piled into the Fiat clown car style. And then they're like, okay, make a left and 2 rights, and we're there. And then everybody has to get out of the car. That's a funny visual.
That would be funny.
So now we're back at the Yakuza compound, and the mid-boss Kameda, not Kaneda, Kameda.
Kamehameha, yeah.
Oh, God, now I'm going to mess this up. Kameda, I have to be really focused, otherwise I'm just going to say what you said. Greets them as like, all right, you guys want to know what's going on, right?
Yeah, maybe we should have just had this conversation a lot sooner.
This is going to take a minute. You want a drink?
No, she can't drink. Can she have some chocolate? Yeah, go for the chocolate, however much you want. So we look at this plate full of candy, and there's the M&Ms, and they're missing the blue and the red because they don't exist yet. Actually, as I'm looking at this, I'm seeing that reds did exist for a long time, and then they stopped existing. And then they reintroduced them in 1987.
So at this point, no reds.
At this point, there are not red M&Ms, and most certainly no blue ones. So it's just brown, orange,
and green,
yellow, and green. There were like 4 colors or something like that.
So it's a plate of candy. We got the M&Ms. We've got, I don't know what time of year it is, but they've got Peeps.
Yeah, they look like Peeps that have been fried, if I'm to be honest.
I do believe fried Peeps is a thing you can get at some state fairs.
Yeah, if you're like in a southern state or county fair, right? I can't imagine fried Peeps in Japan. I don't know. Maybe they do it. I don't know. They look kind of brown is what
they
I'm
looked
saying.
Very brown, yeah.
And there's Pocky, and then there's some yellow striped bitches.
Yellow striped bitches.
I don't know what the yellow striped bitches are.
I wanted to say, like, are they wrapped like caramels or something, or taffy? I don't know.
But you can tell the last one that she goes for is this very nicely wrapped looking bonbon thing that you have to think.
They look like Lindt truffles.
They do look like Lindt truffles. And you know, they're filled with stuff.
Yes,
right?
they often
Those
are.
Those things are filled with stuff. There's some sort of gooey filling, or like there's some fruit jam in there or something. This was not one of those things in the middle. We'll get to that in a second.
So, Kameda is telling Ryo and Kaori, and consequently Utako, alright, so here's a sad story for you. Our boss, our main patriarch, had a daughter, they got in an argument, and she left.
The daughter left with her husband and a baby.
An infant daughter.
They got on a bus, and the bus got into an accident, and everybody died! Except the baby.
You know why?
Because they had the tray table up.
The
baby had the tray table up. Wow.
And the seat back in the full upright position.
Wow, they put the baby in a fully upright bus seat.
It was a bus from Shinjuku to Albuquerque, is what it was.
Anyway, so the baby is the only living person on the whole bus, and somehow they lost track of the baby.
They lost the baby.
They lost the baby, and they've been looking for the baby for like 2 decades. decades. But now they think, no, we got this shit figured out, and we think it's Utako, but we need to know if she's got these 3 moles on her chest that are in the shape of our...
family crest.
Our family crest.
Or Yakuza family crest.
Yeah, the Yakuza, they have those. They have like a little cute picture or some kanji or, just this cool thing that you could put on a stamp, or you frame it and you put it on your wall. That's the family crest. And so her boob is supposed to have moles on it.
On her left side.
Yeah, the family crest is very boring. It's 3 dots in the shape of a triangle.
It's the 3 predator lock-on darts.
Yeah.
When you're about to get shot by the predator.
Yeah, so she's supposed to have those, and I'm just thinking, wow, you really could have just asked this woman.
And they say, no, we've done a ton of homework. We're 90% sure it's her. We just needed this little bit of information.
Then you really could have just asked her. But also, it's a little too late to just, maybe now you're trying to ask her because she's there. Unfortunately, that's where the chocolate bonbon she ate comes in because it was filled with whiskey. And she gets drunk off of whiskey chocolate. This is... embarrassing.
I've read fan fiction where this was a plot point. I can't believe this just unlocked a memory. I specifically remember.
Oh no.
Back in the early days, 2000.
Oh no.
All right, so bear with me here. I believe it was from fanfiction.net, specifically a Gundam Wing fanfic in which Katra, the pilot of Sandrock, he chooses not to drink, but the story revolves around him getting drunk because he drank so much water that it thinned out his blood and he then became drunk.
What? That
Yes.
doesn't make any sense.
I know. We were all 14-year-olds at the time. It was...
Okay, so this is around the age of Vegeta Goes to Shoney's.
the most legendary fanfiction we've ever read.
Look it up, but also expect to be really offended by a lot of the language.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. I don't condone the language usage, but the concept of Vegeta going to Shoney's and then getting into a fight with the Shoney's bear. That concept, that's what's worth it.
Oh
really.
my god. So now Utako's she's feeling herself right now. She's dancing and yelling and carrying on. And Coyote's telling Ryo, all right, we gotta do something. And Ryo's like, all right, I got this.
Hey Utako, we're gonna play strip, rock, paper, scissors, and she's down for it because she's drunk. Unfortunately, even though she's drunk, she's actually really freaking good at rock, paper, scissors. She's winning very hard. She has won Ryo completely naked.
Down to his boxers.
Well, even then, she gets him by the boxers too, and she's demanding that he pull these boxers off. But while they're playing, they're very loud. They're yelling, and they're singing some song, and so the patriarch of the Yakuza family is like, what the fuck is going on out there? Will somebody come in here and explain to me what is going on? But nobody's coming to him to tell him what's happening.
And reminder here, he's laid up in bed. He's not exactly spry.
No, he's a sick old man, and this is part of the reason why, I assume, he wants to find his granddaughter, because guess what? This is a Yakuza princess story all along.
So he busts into the room hey, what are you guys all doing outside? I want to see what's going on in here. And he opens the door just as Utako has decided, hey, you know what? It is too hot in here. I'm going to take my sweater off. Whee!
And he catches her sweater and he's like, what's this? Oh, there's a naked woman in here. And she's not naked. She's still in her bra and her skirt and all that. But it does let everybody see she got the moles. So it's her. We really could have just solved this problem at the beginning of the episode by just asking, hey, do these moles exist?
So you thought this was an episode about poetry? Wrong. Yakuza princess.
And he goes over to her and is like, oh my god, it's you. And immediately hugs her, and my thought is she's kind of sobered up a little bit actually, and she's scared and she's naked and she's crying.
Well, she's not naked, but she is with less apparel.
Well, I wouldn't want to be in front of a bunch of Yakuza down to just my bra.
I mean, fair.
And instead of he's hugging her instead of giving her back the sweater that he caught. Just give her back the sweater.
I know you're happy to have gotten back a piece of your family that you thought had been lost,
but at least let her get dressed first.
Decency, man.
Before you come over and hug her, please. That's kind of strange. But she is happy to finally know some family. Know what that's like. So
we get a flash forward, maybe a couple of days or something like that. And now we're back at Ryo and Coyote's apartment. And she's like, oh yeah, I got all that stuff worked out. I don't have a grandfather complex anymore. Turns out I just wanted family.
Turns out I just wanted to have a grandpa.
And everybody's like, oh, thank God.
Here, have some cookies, Rio, because guess what? It might be a crush on you.
And Rio's like, oh, are these Chips Ahoy? I'll take them. And he's just mindlessly eating these cookies, and then she's there monologuing to herself poetically, today, February 1st, will be our cookie anniversary day.
Alright, that's a strange anniversary to have, but you know how first loves are, where you're like, it has been 1 week, I can't believe we've lasted this long.
It's been. And that's where Get Wild plays, and that's the end of the episode.
It was Yakuza Princess stuff, yay!
It was a
Again.
Yakuza princess all along. At the end of the season, not only are we going to have to do a Mini Cooper count, we're also going to have to do a Yakuza princess count.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know if you guys have noticed, there's kind of a trend here.
There's a lot of them. And then also fake land count. How many fake countries we blow through.
There's so many things we have to count. The M&Ms usage.
M&Ms usage, yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a nice enough story. Like, nobody really got hurt too bad.
But it was one of those, like, why didn't we just ask this person for the information we needed? That would have solved a lot of problems with significantly less heartache and probably a lot less money. We spent a lot of money on paying perverts to do a bad job of perving. They didn't accomplish what they were set out and asked to do, and then we just asked her, and then she took her shirt off.
You realize, though, her answer to somebody hiring perverts was to hire a pervert.
I don't know if she knew who she was hiring entirely.
It's the difference between the people who go straight to Ryo and Kaori versus the people who put the XYZ on the board in Shinjuku Station. Because there's that separation of, if you're going straight to Ryo and Kaori, you've done your homework on who City Hunter is.
But she did go to the board, though.
Right, which is what I'm saying. Like, she didn't have intimate knowledge of, oh, he's the pervert.
Oh, okay, I understand, yeah.
Like, anybody who's gone to their door knows the kind of personality Ryo has.
Right.
So next week's episode is going to be a little weird. It's going to be about haircuts and children.
And Ryo wanting lots of haircuts because some lady is pretty.
And missing.
Oh, yeah, she's gone also. So kids have to be like, hey, Ryo, find our haircut lady.
Also, don't be a pervert. Look, he can only do one of those things, kids. Don't meet your heroes.
And speaking of heroes, come back next time when we cover the 44th episode of the TV series. We asked 100 kids. They said Ryo's our hero.
If you want to catch us outside this podcast, you can always find us both over on Twitter. I'm at JoshKnightTheFirst.
And I'm at MarzGurl. Thank you all so much for listening to our 43rd episode of MokkoriPlay. And if you don't come back next episode, I'm gonna give Josh the ugliest perm.
What? No!